Voice India, it's a series of podcasts and videos intended to inform and engage with our viewers who are curious about voice technology. So if you're absolutely new to voice technology and you're interested about how this new UI and these new platforms can deliver value for your business or your brand, you've come to the right place. My name is Preeti Prakash, I'm your host, and I'm going to be in conversation with Sreeraman Thiagarajan, who is an expert from the field of voice technology. Welcome, Sri.
Thank you, Preeti. Hello, everyone. My name is Sreeraman. I'm co-founder and CEO of Agrahyah Technologies, India's first voice agency. We are here to talk about voice.
First off, I'd like to congratulate you on a very successful launch of the Voice Talks India community. I attended the launch webinar and I heard you and other industry leaders speak, and I found it super informative and engaging. So thank you and congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
So Shri, we all know that we're going to be talking about how you can build your brand on a voice platform today. But can you dive in a little more and tell us what do you have in store for us during today's conversation?
We will start with some stats, then we will understand what it takes to design a voice experience. We will also tell why consumers are loving voice and what is the adoption rate looking like, some of the things that you should do and not to do while designing for voice, and we will also give you pointers on the kind of experiences that you could explore in voice assistants.
Okay, that sounds like an absolutely unmissable episode 3. It's going to be chock full of insights and actionable advice for decision makers. So let's get started, shall we? So Shri, we've talked about this in great detail in our previous episodes, but for people who are, late to the party, who are just joining us, could you give us a little bit of a sense of how popular voice really is? Could you share some statistics and some figures around the adoption of voice?
Sure, Preeti. Voice is becoming an integral part of people's life. Did you know India is the fastest growing voice market?
Okay.
In fact, there are multiple reports that came out, and one of them indicates that 82% of smartphone users use voice technology in some form, and 51% of people use it every day.
So Shri, what's enabling this rapid adoption?
First off, the device landscape is changing. Smart speakers are the fastest growing category in the world, and there is an IDC presentation around it which we featured during Voice Talks India. So do check it out. There is a link in the description. Second, India is a mobile first country, so there are more than 300 million smartphones with voice assistant in them, and of course there are 100 million feature phones like the Geo phone or the Kai OS phone which has smart assistant in itself. So that is also fueling the adoption and the rise and the popularity of voice assistants.
That's great news, Sri. So if I'm a business owner, can you tell me what are the odds that I'm already thinking of adding voice into my marketing mix in the upcoming quarter or during the upcoming year?
Businesses go where they have audience, and because people are using voice assistant, it makes it very lucrative for brands to build there, and we are tending towards the voice commerce. Brands are taking notice and they are building conversational experiences. According to Adobe Analytics, 91% of 400 plus business decision makers who are interviewed, they're already investing in voice this year.
Okay, so what is really investing in voice mean? Does it mean that I'm going to build my own voice app?
Absolutely. Investing in voice means companies will create a presence in voice assistant. This could be different platforms like Google Assistant. And the same Adobe Analytics shows that 22% of companies have already released a voice app, and 44% of them are planning to release something this year. So it looks promising.
Okay, so Shri, now you've talked a little about the business perspective of why, voice is becoming so popular. Can you give us a little bit of a perspective of what is driving consumers to explore voice?
That's not a secret at all. Voice assistants are convenient to use. You can speak it without lifting a finger. It can help you cut down screen time, whether you want to listen to stories during bedtime or you're using it while driving. So again, that's convenience and without screen. It can also help you navigate, like whether you're accessing information or you're accessing a menu on your phone, voice can do it for you. Voice can also bring a lot of accessibility and inclusion. Let's say for first time internet users or people who are not so proficient in English, they could use voice assistants in their language. So there are a lot of reasons for consumers to use voice. It is fast, it is cheap, it is free, it is convenient. So these are all the open secret why consumers are adopting voice.
I've heard that people in India tend to ask their assistant to marry them, but apart from that, what are the kind of questions that people tend to ask their voice assistant?
Our journey on the internet or the web begins with some form of search. Let's say you want to find an address, you search. Let's say you want to find a video, you search. Let's say you want to find some information, you search. Our journey on the web begins with search. So when we say 55% of people are using voice to search some information, it could be anything that in the moment that they need. This could be directions when they're driving, this could be song, this could be what is the distance to moon, or like my son does it, he tries to quickly find maths answers for doing his homework.
Okay, so let's say that I'm a brand or an agency and I'm curious, you've got my attention, where should I start? And what advice do you have for me in terms of a strategy? What advice do you have for me if I'm just thinking about building my first voice experience?
At a strategic level, voice should be part of overall holistic marketing strategy, saying, hey, our consumers are already adopted it, how can we help them when they need it? So that's the big picture thinking. But if you look at it to draw a tactical roadmap for your brand, you could start off with what we call as the information level. Can we make all the information about your product, your SKUs, your price, your promos, the availability of it, all of that can be made available on voice. Just think of it like a website, but equivalent on a voice, right? So when somebody says, how much does a brand cost? Maybe the voice assistant can answer them provided they have built the brand has built the presence, right? So brands can start with that information. Then they can go on to helping customers maybe with transactions, like what is my account balance? A bank can easily link their customer account with voice assistant, and when I say what is my account, it will tell me my bank balance. Or it could be like tracking an order or a sale. Where is my pizza? It's 12 minutes away. Or when is my next flight? It is 2 days away. So things like that, where it is helping me with some kind of transactional information. And then of course we have entire delightful experiences that you could create. Let's say you're a food brand, you could create recipes. Let's say you are a fem care brand, you could create a lot of content around hygiene and health. Let's say you're an education brand, you could create audio experiences, podcast that helps people to learn something new. So basis your brand, you could port that or project that brand persona on voice assistants, and that's the beauty of it.
It's really great to know that voice is making such a big difference in people's lives already. So for the advertisers who are tuned in and for the marketers, what kind of advice do you have, Sri? How should we go about creating conversational experiences on voice?
Right. I come from advertising too. Let me tell you, first thing you should not do is think of it like a campaign or a checklist to do. We have done something on voice for a press release, and some industry folks will talk about it, and consumers are never using it because it was done to please the brand manager and not the brand itself. So let's not do any of those things, right? So let's remember, the first thing you should do is think voice as an omni-channel experience. Think about it in your larger marketing strategy. Next, think of voice as a reflection of your brand and brand persona itself. So how does your brand look like? You know that. Now try imagining how does your brand sound like. There's an entire episode which is coming up next dedicated for this, on developing your brand on a voice platform like Google Assistant. So I'll talk more about it. Third, Preeti, is voice has to be actionable. So it's not just likes and comments that were called as actions in the social era. Now we have gone beyond. Actionable in this means it has to help consumer get an action done. When they're asking for, can you ship me something? It has to help them do that. When they're asking something like, can you tell me where is my product? It has to give them that. So voice is about creating actions. And okay, where do you get started with this? Let's look at some proxy data, which is Google Search Trends or Google AdWord Planner. They give you data on what people are searching for, and that gives you a good starting point to create an actionable voice strategy for your brand. Let's say you're a detergent brand. If people are searching for how to remove stains on leather, normally a detergent is not used for removing stains on leather, but that's a niche space that you can occupy, I'm sure you're not going to answer only the leather stain removal. You can answer a comprehensive set of questions on stain removal, and that fits so well because consumers are wanting those answers. It means action in their real life.
Those are all great tips, Shri. You're saying don't think of voice in a silo, create content that is super suited to voice, think about your brand personality and design experiences that suit your brand personality. Any other tips that you have for creative people and for brand custodians?
Yes, I do. Now we spoke of 3, think of them as commandments. Maybe allow me to tell you the 4th one. Voice has to be relevant. For example, it might be very exciting for you to create a bunch of jokes or a podcast series and popularize it. We spoke about this delight angle, right? I'm sure, but is it relevant from your brand point of view, right? Let's say the same detergent brand and you are trying to give recipes because food stains are the most common on clothes. I don't think that's the right way to look at it, right? So it's good to create relevance for your brand, your category, and extend that on voice.
Okay, so that's really, really useful, Shri. What you're saying is understand what voice can do as a medium for you, create content that is really suited to be delivered via voice. Don't just, do a voice experience to check off like a box on your checklist, and really think about what content people will find useful and relevant and memorable before you go about designing a voice experience.
Yes, and the 5th one, remember, it is conversational AI. It has to be conversational. It cannot be a monologue. Do not use it as a platform where you roll out your ad jingles or your promo messages. This is not yet the platform to do that. Conversational AI means how can you have a dialogue with your consumers and help them conversationally. So if you see, most of the assistants out there start by saying, how can I help you, right? So that is the default personality to have a conversation and help people get things done.
You're saying that we should really, really think about the kind of experiences that will really draw in the consumers and keep them coming back for more.
That's right.
There you have it, folks. Those are the 5 commandments to designing a successful and valuable voice experience that will delight your customers.
Right.
If I have to put my advertiser's hat on for a second, could you advise me what kind of things should I keep in mind while designing my first voice campaign or my first voice experience?
If you're a CMO or a brand manager, you need to have just 2 things right to get your brand on voice. One is all the creative elements of it. The how does your brand sound like, the text to speech or the voiceover, and the information that you would roll out to your consumers. So that's all the creative pieces of it. And then of course comes the conversational AI. Like you could use something called Dialogflow or Canvas. These are all the tools Google gives you to build your conversational AI. Now there are voice agencies specializing in all this, so perhaps you could reach out to one of them, or if you are a developer, just get started and roll out your first action on Google.
So Shri, I think I have a question that a lot of people will be able to relate to. So let's say that I'm a brand, or I'm an agency and I'm proposing something to my client, but we have a really tiny budget, we have a small budget. We're curious about voice, we want to explore voice platforms, but we aren't quite sure what we can do with a little amount of money. So what kind of advice do you have for us?
I'm happy you have some budget there, Preeti, because you said you have a smaller budget. So you can definitely start small. You can start with what you already have. Like I said, if you're a detergent brand, I'm sure you can easily dole up 50 stain removal tips, and you can build it as a conversational AI experience. And you could use your organic means. Let's say your product packaging. You could say something like just ask Google, right? You could use it on your existing social media. There are deep links available. If somebody clicks a link on Facebook or Twitter, it will open the Google Assistant and start answering the question on what they saw the promotion for the link. So it's really easy. Just because you are starting something new doesn't mean you have to have $1 billion investment there. Start small and do remember all the previous points I mentioned. Please be relevant, please be conversational, and please make it actionable for the end user, and I think you will have a great start.
Those are some great points that Shri has made on how you can go about designing your first voice experience. I hope all the marketers out there are taking notes. So Shri, can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek into what's on offer in episode 5?
In the next episode, we are going to learn about building voice experiences to suit your brand. We are going to be looking at some of examples, India, international, on how brands have effectively and creatively used voice assistants to tell their marketing message to people.
So that brings us to the end of another episode of Voice India. I hope that you're enjoying listening to Shri and I chat about new topics every single time. I know I'm having a lot of fun doing this. So if you have any questions for us, comment below. And of course, keep your eyes out for Voice Talks India webinar. That's going to take place shortly in December. So watch this space for more information about that. Thank you so much for listening to us. This is me, Preeti Prakash, your host, signing off.